This is Behind the Mic with Kirkus Reviews, where the subjects are audiobooks and the actors who narrate them. I'm Jo Reed, and with me, contributor Kendra Winchester. Welcome, Kendra.
Hello, Jo. How are you doing?
I'm doing pretty well. It's spring. I'm happy.
Yes, glorious weather.
Yeah, really, really good. So I know you have 3 books about Toni Morrison, so share.
Yes, I am so excited for this. I am a Morrison fan, but not an expert, and so I'm always looking to learn more. And so today we're going to be talking about 3 books by or about Toni Morrison. So the first one is Language as Liberation, Reflections on the American Canon by Toni Morrison, performed by Bahni Turpin. Then we have Toni at Random, an iconic writer's legendary editorship by Dana A. Williams, and it's performed by Deanna Anthony. Then we have On Morrison by Namwali Serpell, and it's performed by January LaVoy. So we have an all-star group today.
You really do. We will begin with Language as Liberation. Tell us a little bit about this book.
Yeah, so this is a collection of lectures that Toni Morrison gave, and it has now been bound up into this volume so that you can read it. You have access to essentially this class that she taught. And it's so fantastic because not only is, Toni Morrison brilliant, but it's a way that people can have that kind of education just by the cost of a book. And even in the back, it includes her syllabus, like for readings for it. So it's really cool. And it's performed by the incredible Bahni Turpin, which I know we have gushed about her before.
Yeah, we certainly have. And she really is a perfect narrator for this book, I think. This is a very, very interesting book. It's really a compilation of her class notes. And it made me just stop for a moment and think, God, imagine being in a class and being taught by Toni Morrison.
Yes.
Whoa.
Yes.
And she's looking at the American canon.
Yes. And I always want to hear writers' thoughts on other writers, but in her case, she's really doing a deep dive on different writers like Hemingway, Willa Cather, Flannery O'Connor, Mark Twain, Gertrude Stein, Carson McCullers, and so many more, and talking about what their writings are and their portrayal of African Americans in their work and what that looks like and what that says about the writer. And it's such a incredibly nuanced and in-depth writings on this, these lectures, but you would return to them over and over and over. And on audio, it's such a conversational type style of writing that it sounds amazing.
I think it's so smart and academic and difficult, I think, in the best possible way.
Exactly, yes.
I listened into it, and honestly, it felt in some ways like a glimpse inside her mind.
Yes. And the way that she views literature and the way that she analyzes it and the way that she is able to tease out these ideas and themes and so clearly portray them for her readers is just phenomenal. And, Bahni Turpin captures that conversational style, and you just feel like you're sitting in a lecture room listening to someone talk about these authors.
It was very dense and fascinating. It was funny because, she's referring to intertextual, and immediately I'm back in graduate school like, boy, I haven't heard that word in such a long time. Really brought back those days. I really think this is a book, as much as I appreciated Bonnie's reading of it, which was very, very good, I think I'd prefer to read it, preferably alongside the books she's discussing. Do this back and forth thing. It begs to be interactive, I think.
Well, I'm glad there's the list of the syllabus in the back so you can see the different writings, because I agree. I think one of the challenging things about this is that it is meant to be interactive. It's a lecture, so it's paired with reading assignments and discussions and different things. So that's something to think about. But imagine this as a book club book.
I did, yes. I have this challenging book club book assignment.
Amazing. Imagine going from listening to this text and then going and talking to your friends. That sounds phenomenal. I would love that. You could read these authors alongside it.
Alongside this, but there's something so intimate about this.
Exactly.
It isn't a casual listen. I mean, I think these lectures ask a lot, but I think Bahni Turpin's thoughtful, steady delivery gives the listener a way in.
Yes, it's really a treasure. And I'm so glad that they put this book out so that people could listen to Toni Morrison's lectures this way and get more out of it. And I think it's great for Toni Morrison fans and for people just who generally love literature.
Let's hear a little. Do you need to set this up?
This is a little bit about how Morrison is defining the course objectives and define some of the terms that she's going to use throughout the lecture series.
This is Language's Liberation, Reflections on the American Canon by Toni Morrison, read by Bahni Turpin.
Studies in American Africanism is an investigation into two principal areas of discursive practice. One area involves the ways in which a non-white Africanist presence and persona was constructed in the United States. The second area involves the ways in which that fabricated presence served the literary imagination in its exploration of American identity. The course uses the terms Africanism and Africanist to suggest the mythic construct of a denotative and connotative blackness, and an entire range of views, assumptions, readings, and misreadings of African peoples and their descendants in this country. Africanism is also the process of alienizing and exoticizing one's own experience of Black people in order to know and therefore own that experience.
I think what Bahni does here is her voice is authoritative, but she never sounds pedantic.
I think that's a great way to put it. And the way that she captures the rhythm and the tone, it to me, it's dense and enriching in such a beautiful way.
Oh, yeah.
But it's never boring because of the way that she performs it. I think that has to be challenging, right?
Oh, how could it not be? I mean, seriously, it would be so easy to fall into a pedantic rhythm with this, I think, as with any college lecture.
Yeah. Love Bahni Turpin, 5 stars. Would listen again.
And we should talk just for a moment about Toni Morrison's own audiobooks. Bahni Turpin, in fact, narrated her book Jazz.
Yeah, I love the audiobooks. I know Toni Morrison was doing unabridged versions and she read a lot of her own audiobooks.
I know, including Paradise over 15 hours.
Yes.
Hats off to her. And Karen Murray, a narrator whom I like very much, also narrated a number of her books. But I was surprised to go back and look, as I did in preparation for this, to see how many of her own books Toni Morrison narrated.
It's such a gift to have an author like that reading their own work for so much of it. That's how I listen to most of the books I've read of Toni Morrison's, and it's just a fantastic experience.
All right, we are moving on to Toni at Random.
Yes, this is Toni at Random, an iconic writer's legendary editorship by Dana A. Williams and performed by Deanna Anthony. And this is a publishing nerd's dream. Oh my goodness, this audiobook. It is about Toni being an editor at Random House and all of the different books that she helped usher into the world. And it's just another facet of Toni Morrison's genius in the work that she does. I had never read anything about Toni Morrison's editorship, though I knew a little bit about it. But this is like a deep dive, and you get to see all the different ways that Toni Morrison works and how she interacted with different authors and brought them on board. It was just a fantastic listening experience as well, because Deanna Anthony is such a great narrator.
I knew Toni Morrison had been an editor. I had no idea about the depth and breadth of her work and her influence until this book came out.
It's just a fantastic look and much needed look at Toni Morrison's work. And, in a book we'll talk about, here in a second, one of the big takeaways is that Toni Morrison is actually underappreciated because of all the different things that she did and the type of writing she did. And I'd have to agree because I don't see a lot of people talking about Toni Morrison's editorship as much. And so when this book came out, I was just like, I couldn't get my hands on the audiobook fast enough. It's just a fantastic listen.
Share some of the authors that she's worked with.
So she worked with Angela Davis, and that was really fantastic to hear about how she brought Angela Davis on board and how Toni Morrison really wanted to be the editor that brought, Davis's, memoir and other writings into the world. Another one was Muhammad Ali, and just the logistics of getting Muhammad Ali to sit down and actually work with Toni Morrison on this was just wild to hear about all the different facets of like, wrangling authors is like herding cats almost, which was delightful. And then we really get into relationships that Toni Morrison had with her authors, like with Gail Jones, who she eventually has a falling out with because of Gail Jones's husband slash agent. And it was just really fascinating to see all the interpersonal dynamics that Morrison was working through to get these books published and out into the world.
Right, because the author really does talk about Morrison's collaboration with these authors.
Yes.
In a lot of detail.
Yes, lots of details, like everything from the cover to book launches to blurbs. You have Toni Morrison writing to other like really famous writers about getting blurbs for the books and endorsing the books. And it was just really fascinating to get that behind the scenes look at Morrison's professional editorship.
And I love Toni Cade Bambara's The Salt Eaters, and I had no idea that Toni Morrison had been the editor of that book. And at the same time, it was like, of course.
Yeah, it's phenomenal. I think like you said, a lot of people have no idea the important part that she played in getting so many books out into the world, particularly by Black authors. And it says in the book that after Toni Morrison kind of retired from editing to focus on her writing, that the number of Black authors that were published decreased because she wasn't there championing them. And it really goes to show the effort that she put into getting Black writing out into the world. And it's just fantastic.
She was nearly 20 years at Random House. She was raising 2 kids as a single mom, and she's doing her own writing.
I have no idea how she did all that.
I don't either. I really don't, but it made me decide I was going to whine less. As I said, it's such a portrait of a literary history, but also collaboration and the quiet labor that helps books find their way into the world.
I really love that quiet labor. I think that's a perfect way to put it. And, she was very kind to her authors. There's several instances where they're like, as authors want to do, understandably, it's their baby going out into the world. They're freaking out. And Morrison is calming them down and like holding their hand, as it were, going into publication. And she just seemed to do such a great job with that and was so kind in her approach to her authors. And it was just a really beautiful thing to listen about. And Deanna Anthony just does a great job with the audio as well, because it is a lot of info that's given and it could have been overwhelming, but the way that her pacing is and her tone is just perfect for it.
I think she is a good guide because she keeps everything very clear and flowing, which matters a lot in a book full of names and relationships and literary history. And with her voice, she makes it welcoming rather than overwhelming.
Yes. And you never really get like everything tangled in your brain because it's so clear and so well performed. And again, I think that has to be such a challenge. And I think Anthony did such a phenomenal job with it.
Well, let's listen.
This section that we're about to listen to is Morrison is introduced to speak at a university, and it's kind of setting up the dual parts of her as editor and writer.
This is Toni at Random. It's by Dana A. Williams, and it's performed by Deanna Anthony.
Despite Park's blunder, she was spot on in her introduction of Morrison as one of the few people who had earned the distinction of being a capable teacher, writer, and editor. Parks had worked as an editorial assistant at Doubleday Publishing Company in the 1960s, so she knew firsthand how rare it was for a Black person, a Black woman no less, to hold a senior editor position at a major trade publishing house. But here was Morrison, a Howard University graduate from Lorain, Ohio, commanding serious attention in the publishing world among Black and white editors alike. She was publishing books few other editors would have dared to take on and making it look easy. Understanding that she had been invited to speak as an editor, not as a writer, Morrison focused her remarks exclusively on her work in publishing. There was no need for the coy warmth she worked so hard to exude as a writer while talking to an audience she was trying to convince to buy and read her books. Here, she donned a certain solemnity that was tempered by the familiarity of being on a campus where she had studied as an undergraduate from 1949 to 1953.
I think there is a brightness to her voice that works well with this book, that takes us through that literary history, but at the same time is deeply personal because it really shows Morrison as a shaping force behind so many other writers.
Yes. And, you listen to her voice for hours, and I could have listened to a book that was twice as long because I was enjoying the book so much. And I understand that you have to, this is really a highlight of Morrison's editor career, even in some ways, because it doesn't go over all the books that she worked on because she worked on so many. But it is a beautiful
Yeah.
listening experience. I think perfect for people who love history, who love literature, who love publishing. Any of those, I think you'd love this audiobook and have a great time with it.
Finally, we're moving to On Morrison.
Yes. So I love Namwali Serpell's books, her novels. And so when I found out that she was writing a book about Morrison, I lost my ever loving mind because I was so excited for it. And one of my most anticipated books. And so it came out. And when I found out that January LaVoy was performing the audio, I think I gasped out loud because it was perfect. I was so excited. So this book On Morrison, this is about, a deep dive into the major works of Toni Morrison. And this is also inspired by, loosely based on Namwali Serpell's lecture series on Morrison. And that was like her springboard. And then she kind of rounded out and expanded things for print. And I'm just so thrilled for this audiobook because it takes, each chapter focuses on a different novel for the most part. And looking at these novels and doing close readings. And then you have January LaVoy performing it. It's never boring. It's perfection. I would listen again in a heartbeat. It's so good.
I listened into the book throughout and all of the first chapter, which is called On Difficulty. And it is a wonderful listen, and it so makes me want to listen to the entire text. And this has jumped to the top of my, I'm going to listen as soon as we're done, Kendra, because I was enraptured by it. I love that it's a deep and sustained engagement with Morrison's work, but the parts that I've listened to, it just doesn't feel remote. There's a kind of immediacy to it.
It is. It is so incredibly well thought out, well written. And one of the things that I loved listening to these three audiobooks very closely together is that I made sure to listen to this one last because Serpell talks about the different parts of Toni Morrison's lecture series about her editorship. And so I had a baseline of what Serpell was talking about. And we talked about book clubs earlier. This would be a great way to work through Morrison's major works and to get a deep dive as if you were in a classroom about them because Serpell's chapters are that detailed.
And I thought if I were teaching again and could do a full year-long course, I would use these three books, and I would use the books that they engage with. So in the first one, the traditional American canon, and then move to Morrison as editor and read that book or listen to that book with some of the books that Morrison helped shepherd into the world, and with this end up with Morrison's books. I think that would be a great year-long course that would really give such a panorama of American literature.
Absolutely. Where can I sign up for that class? It sounds
I don't know.
fantastic.
I do not know, but boy, I would sign up for it. I think Serpell is such a rigorous reader, but such a clear writer, which I so appreciated because it so easily could have been dense in an overburdened way.
Yes, Serpell is so incredibly conversational and so smart, and the writing is so easy to follow. I am not an academic. I'm not an expert in Toni Morrison, but I don't have to be for this book. She meets you as the listener where you're at and you can follow along. And that's something I really, really appreciated. And you can tell that Serpell's love of Toni Morrison is so deep and so full that it's overflowing, and it almost feels like overflowed into this book in that she loves Morrison so much. She created this whole well-researched book about it, and you can see that, and you can tell that Serpell has read all of Morrison's books several times. The close readings are phenomenal. I felt like I was in grad school again.
In a great class.
Yes,
Yeah.
phenomenal listening experience. January LaVoy, of course, is amazing and really captures that conversational tone and the love and emotion that Serpell writes about Morrison's work with. And was a top tier listening experience for sure.
Yeah, I agree. My note was that January leans into the conversational quality of her writing, and that makes an accessible book even more accessible.
Yes, and while still also challenging in the best way, in an
Mhm.
academic way, because you're getting these close readings. One of the things I loved is that she'll take moments to write about, like, there's this moment where we talk about the play that Morrison wrote. I had no idea she had written the play, or like the poems that Morrison wrote. And, one of the things, Serpell loves Toni Morrison, but she does do close reading and has that critiquing quality of her writing sometimes. And she'll talk about how Morrison didn't like something about The Bluest Eye that she wished she could go back and change. And I had no idea of that context. And so by adding that context, it deepens our reading of her novels and her short stories and short story and different things. And the chapter on rectitude is phenomenal. Like, I keep thinking about it.
The excerpt you chose takes a bit of the Bluest Eye conversation, so why don't you set it up?
Yes, I think that this section just gives a great example of Serpell's conversational tone and the way that she approaches her close readings.
This is On Morrison by Namwali Serpell, and it's read so brilliantly by January LaVoy.
Banned as it's been, everybody knows what The Bluest Eye, 1970, is about. A little black girl who wishes she had blue eyes. That's not really a spoiler. Besides, Toni Morrison didn't believe in spoilers. In fact, she gave away the whole plot of this, her very first novel, in its opening narration. Quiet as it's kept, there were no marigolds in the fall of 1941. We thought at the time that it was because Piccola was having her father's baby that the marigolds did not grow. The gossipy tone and the mystery of the missing marigolds divert our attention from those 6 key words. Piccola was having her father's baby. But these are, in fact, the book's shocking revelations. Incest, rape, child pregnancy, and as yet more spoilers in these early pages go on to tell us Charlie Breedlove is dead. Our innocence, too.
First of all, this immediately makes me want to reread The Bluest Eye.
Yes.
Right off the bat. And then I want to say that January is one of the great narrators. There are many reasons, but probably most importantly, because she's also a great reader and she understands text and she knows how to express it.
Yes. And it flows so beautifully, and it feels like you're just sitting across from someone talking about these books and like a discussion group or something, the way that she's able to make it so bright and vibrant. And I think it pairs so well with Serpell's prose that it's like a perfect match. And that's really
Mhm.
hard to find. And I think that she does it so well. And like you said, she's one of the greats. Like, she'll go in the Hall of Fame forever and always, because I love everything that she performs.
I do as well. And you had a tremendous week, but this was the book that most captured me.
Well, I'm excited to hear what you think about it once you've listened to it.
I am excited to share it with you too. And I can't wait to start listening to it. Because the first chapter and the bits that I listened to throughout, just as I said, it had me enthralled. So what a wonderful week, Kendra.
Yes, I'm so happy to share all these Toni Morrison books with everyone. I hope they have a fun time listening to them and doing their own little deep dive into Morrison's, entire works and all her editorship and all these different things. It's like our little class just for us.
Exactly, because we have her as a teacher, as an editor, and as a writer.
Amazing. Love it.
You put together a great week. Thank you. I really mean it. Thank you. This was wonderful.
I had the best time.
And I'll talk to you next month. You're listening to Behind the Mic with Kirkus Reviews. Behind the Mic drops on Thursdays, and if you follow us, we will just appear in your feed. And while you're at it, follow Fully Booked by Kirkus Reviews. Fully Booked is the podcast for book lovers. Every Tuesday, host Megan Labrise brings you author interviews, industry insights, and recommendations from the bestseller list. Find your next great book on Fully Booked by Kirkus Reviews. You can follow Fully Booked and Behind the Mic on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Audible, or wherever you get your podcasts. And then stop by kirkusreviews.com to check out reviews for both print and audiobooks. Behind the Mic is produced by Jessica Lockhart. Michelle Cobb, Stephen Cummings, Leslie Fine, Alan Minskoff, Alex Ritchie, Laura Rossi, and Kendra Winchester are our contributors. Jennifer Dow is the editor, with assistance from Alicia Langerman, and Tom Beers, the executive producer. The music is William Ross Chernoff's Nomads 4-Way, and I'm your host, Jo Reed. Good listening.